Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Four events, 12 races, and it all comes down to this. The final 3 races of Season 3 for the BRSCC's Clapham North Winter eSports Series. And where better place to host it than the home of British motorsport. The full Silverstone GP layout in use, 3.6 miles, the home of the British Grand Prix, and certainly a stellar place and the perfect location for us to wrap up this and what's been a stellar fight between the two cars at the top. It will either be James Dennison or Matt Kendall who will win the eSports title, but who that's going to be remains to be in question. Good evening, everybody. Scott Woodward here one final time for the eSports series to guide you through all of the action. And as you can see, as usual, cars are off on their qualifying session to round things off for the final locked-in grid based on qualifying positions. About roughly 8.5 minutes to go in this session as they continue on. No surprise that James Dennison, the points leader, is fastest in the standings, just about 3.5 tenths ahead of his main rival Matt Kendall, and they look at the moment provisionally to share the front row between them. There's a few drivers behind who are trying to battle in terms of points. That includes the likes of Thomas Merritt, Isaac Doble, Will Blackwell Chambers, who is currently 5th fastest, but 3rd in the standings. The camera has picked up the man who Matt Kendall is chasing to try and overhaul tonight. There is a 10-point gap on drop scores. The two of them at the head of the field. 893 points for Dennison compared to Kendall's 883, and either one Kendall can overhaul that deficit. He is able to do so in the calculations, but he will need the results really to go his way to outscore Dennison by enough points to overhaul him and give the Clapham North team car the title. But Dennison, if he can keep his cool and minimise any damage that Kendall might make in the points, we'll have to wait and see. So, the Silverstone GP circuit, as we mentioned, the home of British motorsport. This really is a circuit that is full of history. Of course, it's hosted several Grand Prix, several rounds of top sports car racing, MotoGP, even had races for the British Touring Car Championship as recent as 1996. This layout has been enforced ever since around about 2010. They included the arena section, village and Maloop. It is corner and a circuit that certainly does push the cars to the limit. And of course, with the BRSCC Real World season beginning here next weekend, we've got 7 series in contest to kick off their 2025 campaigns. A bit of coherence and cohesion when it comes to linking the end of the eSports series with the beginning of a new real-world series, and that the Silverstone GP circuit was the obvious choice. And I have to say, it has been quite an impressive first season for the eSports series with these BMW M2 CS racing cars. They've had great feedback, not just from people within this series, but as a whole across the iRacing service. I think this is also a free car on the iRacing service too, so being able to really get used to things in the mix. There's Ari Barker, who was one of 2 Northbrook racing cars. Richard Jepp hasn't been here in the last couple of rounds, but Barker still upholding honours, and he comes into the meeting with a current position of 12. He's behind Tom Griffiths in the standings. I'll give you a quick rundown as we look at the qualifying here of where everyone sits in terms of points. So James Dennison, as we mentioned, has a 10-point advantage on drop scores with 893 over Matt Kendall's 883. Then there is an 18-point gap between third place and fourth. That's Will Blackburn Chambers 858 to Thomas Merritt 840. There is Will on the screen in car number 43. Isaac Doble currently rounds out the top 5 on 804 points, and he is 11 points ahead of Jack Noller, who is doing incredibly well, given that he didn't start until the second event back at Donington Park, and was immediately a front runner in that team. So he's managed to quickly get himself up into the top 6 and could even potentially overhaul Isaac Doble if he has a rough night tonight. The rest of the top 10 is Benji Douglas and Tom Von Hemius. They're separated by 2 points in the battle over 7th, and then you couldn't be closer between John Pethick and Joe Moss, 750 points each. Pethick is ahead, I think, on count mathematical results. And then other drivers who are up there in that sort of top 20 run, which are pretty much all here tonight, really, are the likes of Tom Griffiths, Ari Barker, Nathan J. Williams, who was pretty impressive at Cabell Park last time, Pete Smith, who is trying to up honours in the second of the Bromley racing cars. He is on the grid tonight in 7th fastest at the moment. He placed ahead of this man, John Pethick. And then a couple of drivers who are a little further down have had up and down effort in the season. That includes the like Nick Ramsey-Goff and Chris Etheridge, who did get a podium at Brands Hatch, and he has been pretty strong in the hashtag West car, which is the particularly Listerine-inspired 1992 BMW livery. He's just behind John Pethick. He'll come into shot in a few moments' time, I imagine, if Pethick is backing off for a lap. There it goes. He's being chased down by Ari Barker on this qualifying lap. So qualifying then less than 5 minutes, coming up to 4 minutes left in the session, and Dennison still currently fastest by almost half a second, so that looks to be an ominous sign for this evening. As watch Tom Hemius in a Clapham North sandwich. Will Blackwell Chambers in front, Matt Kendall behind, and Kendall will be getting a double toe from the 2 cars in front of him. Back to Tom Hemius, we look at the rest of the top 10. So Thomas Merritt 3rd fastest, only a fraction behind Kendall in the times. Isaac Doble 4th from Will Blackwell Chambers, so Will was inside the top 5, but he slipped back to 5th later in this session. Harry Barker 6th ahead of Pete Smith in 7th place. Then Chris Etheridge 8th, Tom Griffiths 9th, and John Pethick rounding off the top 10. Second half of the grid you can see on the left-hand side of the screen is Tom Von Hemius, who we're looking at here in 11th fastest. Benji Douglas 12th ahead of Ben Williams, Keith Dalton, the Captain Williams, Metro Cup racer. Mark Blunt, Nick Ramsey-Goff, Jamie Peters-Ennis, Max Haller, James Roberts, and Dan Gamble are the 20 cars that we have to round off the season tonight. This circuit really is quite a roller coaster. It's quite a fast circuit for the most part. Lots of long straights, long sweeping corners. The only real big braking zone or tricky tight sections that you have are into the arena section through Village and the loop, and then onto the Billington straight. And then just this complex they're coming up to here, before with Dan Gamble's, they come towards complex at Club and the double apex right-hander of Abbey. Sorry, this is Vale on the left hand. I'll get my corners right. Vale and then Club is the double apex right-hander you have here. You power your way onto the pit straight, but be careful that you don't run across the crumble strip too much and extend track limits. Gamble, let's see if we can just follow Gamble for a lap and see how he gets on. So in towards turn 1 at Abbey Corner, very fast right-hander. This is on the now Grand Prix layout. And you go through Abbey, through Farm Corner, you carry the momentum, and then you're onto the brakes hard for the first time. One of the hard braking stops on this circuit. You trail brake in, clip the apex for the first part, keep the car more to the right-hand side, get the apex and the racing line for the loop, and then on the power through the gears, a little short shift to line traction through the kink at Aintree, and then onto the Wellington straight. This is the first proper chance drivers will have to start to overtake here and line them up for a pass under the bridge, past the BRDC grandstand and the BRDC clubhouse building on the right-hand side. But then they'll be piling in towards this complex of Brooklands and Luffield. It's almost a never-ending left-hander. And as we go to the bumper camera, sweep through Luffield, it's an endless right-hand. You're waiting. Now you're back on the throttle. Let the car run out wide. Now you're powering past the Heritage pits, where the old original Silverstone pits were. They still exist. They're still used for club racing, particularly on the national layout. Then you come down to what was turn 1 of the Grand Prix circuit, Cops, still as fast as it ever was. Down a gear to get the revs back up, coming wide on the curbs. Now you make the sprint towards one of personally my favourite sections of the course, including Cops. You swing towards this fantastically high-speed section. You go through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. And smoothness here whilst keeping momentum is absolutely key, particularly with a big, heavy car like this. They're not overly heavy, the BMWs, but they're certainly slightly chunkier, shall we say, than the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars. Not as nimble, but still plenty of power. And then the car powers its way onto the long hanger straight here, under the bridge. The walking spot, which is Stowe Corner on the right-hand side. Coming to the end of the qualifying session, we follow Dan once again. He turns in through Stowe, another long corner. Find your apex, let it drift out on the exit. Don't use too much curb or it might incur you a track limits penalty. An incident point in iRacing terms. Then flick left, flick right for the first apex club, click on the power again for the second part, and then just if you can tap the inside curb, flick it as you come through over the line, and Dan Gamble might remain 20th on the back of the grid, but he's still picking a fine lap. I think actually improved on that lap. That was his fastest lap of the session, but still puts him right at the back of the grid last, but by absolutely no means least. So we'll try and keep the point situation active. I've got the active spreadsheet in front of me here as well, which I'll be trying to input results as they come in. We get set for our first of 3 15-minute races to get things underway here at Silverstone. It is James Dennison and Matt Kendall who will begin their title fight in these final 3 races from the front row of the grid. There was almost 4.5 tenths separating the pair, but Dennison was fastest and on pole with Kendall alongside. Thomas Merritt and Isaac Doble make up the second row of the grid, 2 Fiesta Junior races for 2025. But it's Will Blackwell Chambers and Ari Barker with one of his best qualifying results of the season. He will start in 6th. Then Pete Smith and Chris Etheridge make up row 4 ahead of Tom Griffiths and John Pethick in 10. Tom Von Hemius and Benji Douglas, 2 more young talents, will prize themselves from row 6. And the rest of the entry sees Ben Williams and Keith Dalton ahead of Mark Blunt and Nick Ramsey-Goff, looking to make up some progress from the 8th row in 16th. And Jamie Peters-Ennis, Max Haller, James Roberts and Dan Gamble, who we rode with, and that was his best lap time for his final lap of the session that we rode on board with, who will start at the rear of the field in 20th. The few cars spreading up out of the pit lane. This is going to be a crucial one. Whoever can get themselves really in front here from the first front row and the first couple of laps, this will surely set the tone for the rest of the evening, or whether or not Kendall can really take the fight to Dennison, or if this is going to be all in hand for the Bromley Racing with Alba Studios man. He's leaving it to the last minute to grid himself up. A couple of cars, also someone towards the back, hasn't yet hit the set to grid button just yet. Kendall will have the inside line, but not on the racing line, so he won't have the grippy part of the circuit to get underway. He'll be looking to try and get across as quick as he can, get a clean start from the inside. Dennison's car pops onto the grid. And once they are confirmed, the 5 red lights are about to come on. So, this is the showdown. Dennison versus Kendall. 3 races to settle who wins the 2025 BRSCC Clapham North Winter eSports Series. Race 1 is underway. Dennison's tactic is clear. He needs to defend from Kendall. He gets a decent start on the run towards Abbey Corner. And the 2 title contenders swinging towards turn 1 in grid positions, first and second. And Dennison was quick to try and close off any avenue. That was a classic Schumacher-style chop. And Kendall tried to dummy himself up the inside in towards Abbey Corner. Behind them, it's second and third. They're almost 2 by 2 going into the loop, and Thomas Merritt doesn't have any cares at all for championship connotations. He wants to get himself up the inside for second place, and when he's trying to get past, he's done it through entry, but onto the Wellington straight. This is not what Kendall needs at all. Dennison's almost away and gone, but Kendall is already in an early fight for second place here as they swing down towards Brooklands for the first time. Who's going to be last of the late breakers? Kendall dares to go round the outside. He's got the grip, he's got the confidence, and he'll have the place back in a second as he holds his line. In through Luffield for the first time. Everyone's packed up together. Doble advanced a piece of this too, because the fact that Merritt left the door open whilst trying to allow space for Kendall almost gave the younger brother of Mikey Noble, BTCC racer, prime chance to get into a podium spot early on. The rest of the pack spreading out behind. You can see Harry Barkish at the head of the second of the Bromley Racing cars, and just behind them, Chris Etheridge is going wheel to wheel with John Pethick. The all action starts, not too much drama. That chop from Dennison really was a statement of intent. If you want to get past and win this title, outscore me, you're going to have to do it my way. So far, looks as though that Kendall's got it made. Pethick now looking back at this midfield squabble going on between Etheridge and Monhemius. There's Douglas in there as well, and Ben Williams, and they're all battling towards the bottom of the top 10. Field makes its way down the hanger straight for the first time. Dennison's already gone by a second in front. You can't see him at the bottom of the shot, but they're all siphoning off into packs of 3 and 4 at the moment in these early stages. They haven't even completed one lap yet, and there are pack battles going on all the way. But you can see right at the top of the screen, in purple and yellow, there is points leader James Dennison pulling away already by nearly 1.5 seconds. He did this in the first 2 races at Cowboy Park. He had the front row of the grid pulled away, and really was nowhere to be seen. Even though he was able to just keep the cars behind at bay, they did try and close in as much as they could. And ultimately, had nothing for his pace. So the man who was nearly 4.5 seconds ahead, or 4.5 tenths ahead in qualifying, pulled away by 1.3 seconds. I'm hearing away from our producer that we've actually lost Max Haller. We'll have a replay of that in a second. Here we go. Max Haller, who started towards the rear of the field in car number 11, he's one of the lobster cars, and so the reason he's battling there, I think with Benji Douglas. No, that's with well, either way, he just looped it around. Looked at a little bit of a tap there with the lead, and the car looked like it was right behind him, possibly was Nick Ramsey-Goff. So we'll see if there is any connotation for that afterwards. It was a very innocent looking tap. That's for the steward to decide after the race. So on to lap 2 now. Edison has the lead by almost 1.5 seconds now. Must merit is only 4 tenths behind Kendall in 3rd. Then Doble 4th, Blackwell Chambers 5th, Pete Smith in 6th position, Ethic, Monhemius, Etheridge and Barker. That's the top 10. Leaders winning their way onto the pit straight and towards the top for the second time. Classic shot. This is the old school classic 90s BPCC shot watching the BMW car sweep through Woodcote. Reminds of the 1994 season review watching the car sweep through. There's another great on-track shot. They file through one after the other. And they're all line astern. This is not really a place where you can make overtaking moves, but you can pass, but it's not quite that common to make a move into Baggers, Beckis or Chapel because of the cadence and the momentum that you need to carry all the way through the left, right, left, back onto the hanger straight. Not easy to go side by side through that section. If you can manage it, certainly do so if, again, you've got the grip and confidence to pull it off. The lead gap has come down by just a fraction, by a couple of tenths. Kendall now leading Merrick as he tries to close back in. So he's got the gap down by what was 1.4. Just edged back towards his main rival here as they wind their way through Bale and the double right-hander of Club. And no more real massive movers as far as I can see in terms of position. Still Dennison in front now by 1.3, so the gap has come down by about a tenth. Duel going on, this fight going on further back in the second half of the top 10, involving Chris Etheridge, quite on board with the hashtag best driver, staring at the rear of Tom Monhemius' car. Tom has had some relatively strong performances in and around the top 10 in recent races. He was quite prominent around particularly Brands Hatch, and also had a decent run in one of the races at Cadwell as Etheridge tries to give him a friendly helping hand through the loop, gives him a slight little love tap, and just to remind him that he is there. Hasn't completely disappeared as we hang out to the side of Chris Etheridge's number 326. He's thinking about lining him up for a dive in towards Brooklands, but I think he's just, rather than making that dive, he's either trying to force a mistake or put himself into Hemmis's mirrors, and what he's tried to do has almost worked. He's put himself onto Hemmis's left rear wheel, and that's a fantastic shot, showing just how close they can get in competition like this. And while Hemmis is being courteous, he is giving Etheridge the room. I think he was expecting Etheridge to have better traction off the corner. The hashtag Blessman is trying to switch himself alongside here, and again, Monhemius is trying to keep his race in line, but he's keeping enough of a gap on Etheridge to try it down the outside, which he does. There's not enough grip, runs out wide, and that gives Barker the run he needs off of Cops. Now they're going to go side by side. Douglas fancies a look at this as well. It's 4 of them for the position. That's not going to work. There's a high-speed contact between Etheridge. Him and Barker came together, and off the road, off onto the runoff area goes Harry Barker. Continues on. You might feel very much aggrieved by that. Looked as though, from my sort of completely neutral perspective, as though it was kind of 2 cars coming together. There wasn't any malice in that at all, as far as I could see. This is the replay. Look at Harry Barker's point of view here. And towards Beckett's. Barker looks like he has a slight overlap, but they didn't really want to give up the place, and wasn't, as far as I could see, any turn-in from anyone. It was just 2 cars trying to go for the same piece of track, and they both seemed to just sort of attract towards each other like a magnet. Here's the aerial shot. And Barker turns in. I think there's some net code in that as well. Again, nothing purposeful there. Looks like it was a victim of net code between the 2 drivers. Nothing doing too much there. Keith Dalton, who's now just ahead of the recovering Harry Barker. Barker now finds himself all the way down in 13th after that little misdemeanor with Etheridge. Team man's got some work to try and at least get himself back to the top 10 if he can. And the way you finish in race 1 gives you the grid for race number 2. The higher he can move up here on the recovery, the better he can have a time trying to work his way towards the front again. We are past half distance, and rather than trying to regain positions, Barker might be about to lose one because he's behind Keith Dalton. But he's now boxed in with Dalton right in front and Tom Griffiths, the ex-BMW Compact Cup man, right alongside him to driver's left. But Griffiths doesn't have all the momentum. Tries to get up the inside towards Brooklands, and Barker this time has learnt his lesson. He now gives him plenty of room. The left-hander under brakes so that Tom Griffiths stopped the move done by the time he turns in towards Luffield. Now that's another task now for Griffiths, who is up a spot and now on to challenge Keith Dalton in the BASF livery. Out in front, still the gap has remained static at around 1.3 seconds between Dennison and Kendall. So Dennison has the pace in those initial couple of laps, but Kendall has the pace to match him. It just takes maybe Kendall a lap or 2 to get himself right up to speed and get that car into working temperature, whereas Dennison seems to be right on the pace from the word go. He'll be trying to an advantage. Remember, it's 100 points for a win, 98 per second, then it goes down in increments of 2 per position. You also get a point for fastest lap as well on top of that. So Edison will be hoping he can not only keep his advantage but extend it further going into race number 2 and making Matt Kendall's task in race number 2 not only much more difficult, but much more critical in terms of how much he needs to try and outscore him, and any kind of chance of still stealing the crown from Dennison at the end of the night. What's going on here further back? This is now between this quartet. Griffiths has now found a way past Keith Dawson since we last found them. That was exiting Luffield. Griffiths now into 12th position. There's Griffiths stacking up a little bit here. You've got Griffiths, followed by Dalton, Barker, Peter Ennis, who's joined the queue, as has also Mark Blunt in car number 3. He's the Fiesta T150 Challenge driver. Just the line. And on now to lap number 5. 4 laps in the books around this Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And back with our leaders. Aniston still. The gap is very, very static. I look at some of the previous lap times, so the pair of them are out in front. They're both personal bests, and they're practically matched for times of 2 minutes 16.647 and for 2:16.656. That was Dennison and Kendall respectively. So they are even on pace. So I think what needs to happen here in the second race is Kendall needs to get a better start where possible, try and preempt Dennison moving across and trying to make the move, hold the lead, and instead put himself in front quicker enough so that he doesn't lose out and find himself not making any inroads on his main rival in front of him, because that has to be an agonising thing as a driver. If you've got a main rival in the championship and you're very evenly matched on pace, you can see them right in front, but no matter how hard you push, they seem to have a response to your pace and to everything that you're trying to throw at them, and the gap is either not going down, it's staying static, or it's even getting out much wider. So that can be even more frustrating watching your main rival move further away from you. Rivalries brewing here in the mid-pack. This is now fight for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th on Hemius, Douglas, Etheridge and Williams. This quartet. Etheridge has to be careful, I think, after his little incident with Harry Barker going into the Magnus Beckett's complex. He's being a little bit more careful, cautious in his approach. Just a replay here of what happened. This thing is Douglas passing Etheridge. This is where Etheridge now is boxed in. He's got Hemius in front, Douglas to his right. And what a dummy that was from Douglas. He absolutely sold him. Clear one up inside into Magnus and Beckett's. That was a really smart move from Benji. And really did hoodwink Chris Etheridge. A good one there. So he's now made another position. And in fact, you can see here that Etheridge has lost another place because Ben Williams has also got through. The Metro driver passed the regular race for both the C1s and also the Super Sport Endurance Championship. In a BMW, so he's quite well versed to rear-wheel drive cars from Munich. We're going to head back into the complex once again. Etheridge has had a slightly less than fortuitous run. He's still on the verge of the top 10. He's found himself losing places more than gaining them at this point. The back straight they'll come. A wiggle there from Williams as he tries to get the power back on. Now they make the sprint towards Brooklyn. This is always, if you ever watch particularly club racing of some kind, any kind, on the national circuit, this is a corner here that always tends to provide the action. Particularly with a long run exiting out of the right kind of wide exit from Beckett. You loop onto up through the entire southern part of the circuit, which is more known as the international circuit these days. Cuts off at the kink between turning left at the loop and turning right instead through this little kink with the right-hander, takes you back onto the hangar straight. But down and towards Brooklands and Luffield is always a fantastic spot to watch on regardless of any kind of club racing. I recommend if you get to go to Silverstone any club weekend, particularly BRSCC, and the action you find at that corner will be certainly quite one to enjoy. Speaking of action, plenty here. Let's side by side again, and I would have thought that Etheridge might have learned his lesson from last time because he is trying to go side by side with Williams in towards Magnus Beckett's and Chapel. A very brief glitch there in the connection for Williams, but he carries on. Not totally comfortable with the rear end of that car. It's twitching a tiny bit. Etheridge now on a strong run here to try and get past. Speaking of strong runs, Merritt has a good one here off the second place on Kendall, who was lost behind the Dennison in front. The gap is now, as you can see on the left-hand side on the timing screen, is timing tower 2.2 seconds. Now Merritt is trying to push as far as he can. Flip back to Etheridge versus Williams. Looks like Etheridge trying to pull an outside move, at least exiting Stowe Corner, and now through Vale and the double right of Club. Etheridge has got the move done. He managed to do so without making contact. That is another place gain. Etheridge back into the top 10. But beat his personal best result of the season, which was third back at Brands Hatch. Chris, with many drivers who are using this series as a nice winter warmer, if you like, to get themselves ready for the new season. It is great to see, just like we talked about for the first half of the season, great variety of drivers across several different disciplines and formulas within BRSCC coming together in a single make eSports series, which is one of the best out there, and one that's really allowing them to just really dust off the cobwebs proper in a way before they get going. And for the first time next weekend on the circuit, anyone that's racing here will certainly have had plenty of mileage here and chance to dust themselves off and refamiliarise themselves with the GP circuit. Douglas, who pulled off that great move into Magnus Beckett's and Chapel, now lining up. Monhemi is here. He's quite young, full of talents here. And Douglas is on the prowl. He's into Cop's corner, bringing better momentum through that long right-hander. He pulled it off once, getting past Etheridge. Guess he's going to try again in towards Magnus Beckett's, but the line's not there because he's found a green and white shape roadblock in front of him. That's no reflection on Monhemi's pace, of course. At the Monhemi's holding station, and the outside looks Douglas, but he was out into the couldn't quite make that stick. Now as they make their way up towards the corner, might have a battle similar to this because it looks like that Tom Merritt is really putting Matt Kendall under the cosh here on the last lap of the race. So whether he can hold on, it might be in a matter of seconds, but it looks as though ahead of them, James Dennison's going to take one perfect step towards clinching the Season 3 title. He will take victory in Race 1 at Silverstone GP in the BRSCC Clapham North Winter Esports Series. It's second for Kendall and third for Thomas Merritt, who put pressured Kendall all the way to the flag. He has to hold on for another excellent podium for the PS Junior runner. Isaac Doble fourth ahead of Will Blackwell Chambers, who was fighting his way across the line to take the last top 5 spots. And Pete Smith in at 6th, John Pethick in 7th place, Tom Monhemius was 8th. And it was Benji Douglas who couldn't find his way past Monhemius in the end. And then it's 10th place for M. Williams. And Harry Barker, after his netcode, we think netcode assisted tap with Chris Etheridge, comes across the line in 13th, so he wasn't able to really pull off as much of a recovery as he was hoping for. Ramsey Goff, meanwhile, looks like he's had a bit of a rough first race of the evening. He's going to come through at last of the cars that will finish in 19th position. Max Haller, the only man not to finish. Crosses the line, flashes the headlights. I'm sure he'll have been hoping for better fortunes, but comes the brakes, as they say. So, the result and also the grid for race 2 will be one and the same. As I've mentioned, the result of race 1 sets the grid for race number 2. But in terms of points, I'll input them in a second. Dennison and Kendall get another chance to square up from the front row of the grid. It's Dennison who scored 101 points. It was the win plus the fast lap compared to Kendall's 98. That means now the gap, according to our calculations, unofficial calculations, is 13 points now at the top. It means that this really is going to be a much more critical race for Kendall to try and outscore Dennison if he can get a better start. So Dennison and Kendall, front row of the grid from Merritt and Doble, and Blackwell Chambers and Pete Smith, John Pethick and Tom Monhemius, Benji Douglas and Ben Williams, followed by Edridge and Griffiths on the 6th row. Quickly running through the rest from 13th onwards. Gets set to get underway is Barker, Dalton, Blunt, Peter Zennis, Gamble, Roberts, Nick Ramsey Goff and Max Haller. The top 20 cars on the grid. So, revs are up. Race number 2 is underway. And no chop this time from Dennison, who feels much more comfortable getting underway. A better start from the racing line season turn once again into Abbey with the whole shot. He will lead the pack through the opening few corners again for the first time. And Merritt is pretty much picked off exactly where he left up from the end of race number 1. He's right on the rear bumper of Kendall. Gives him a little love tap almost into the first part of the arena section. Almost 2 and 3 abreast behind them. The top 5 trying to put themselves already. Still Dennison, Kendall, Merritt, Doble and Blackwell Chambers. These cars will stick downwards, still sorting themselves out. We've got side by side between Monhemius in green and white, who was on the right, and in blue and white, John Pethick. That is over 7th and 8th. As the pack comes streaming down towards Brooklyn for the first time. Jostling for position. Trying to find racing room. Griffiths going round the outside of Harry Barker for position 2. Edges the Norfolk racing driver out wide. Barker tries to come back at him. Nothing doing just there. There's Max Haller, who retired from race 1. Towards the back of the field. And make the way down towards tops the first time. If anything, I would say that Kendall hasn't let Dennison get away very much here in this second start. The first one, I think he was more preoccupied trying to fend off rather racy Thomas Merritt, whilst this time it hasn't quite worked out just that way for Dennison. Isn't also working out is the race for Nick Ramsey Goff. Looks like it's been a bit of a tete-a-tete with both Matt Haller and somebody else involved in that too, which is quite unfortunate. And I don't think somehow Nick Ramsey Goff was quite too pleased with that outcome. Just the pack comes streaming through. See here, Ben Douglas saying just how close Tom Monhemius really is. Close as you like. Can you get any closer? Yes. And he was looking inside, seeing just what a straight 600 looks like underneath the M2 CSR car, underneath figure texture. We are racing fun for you. Monhemius spots the gap up the inside on the exit of Stowe Corner, runs Benji Douglas out wide, but the track position gives Douglas the line for the next corner, slots in neatly in front of Monhemius and maintains the place, and runs too deep in towards Stowe. Might face the cutback on the exit if he's not careful. Where is Douglas? Where is he? There he is, right in front, because we couldn't see him right behind. We saw Chris Etheridge's car in the mix. This time, didn't quite happen. Now, across the line, they come at the end of lap number 1, and that lead gap is not 1.3 seconds like it was at the end of race at lap 1 in the first encounter. It's now very much a quarter of a second. It's very close. In fact, Dalton and Griffiths go side by side. This is much closer affair this time, with a better start from Kendall and a better opening lap. Keeps him in touch with his main rival. First 6 are trying to break away at this front pack. Monhemius and Douglas going wheel to wheel. Leverage in there too. These 3 or 4 cars were very much battling amongst each other in around the top 10 the first race a few moments ago. Almost 3 wide between them as rather interested Ben Williams watches on. Here's the view from Etheridge, hailing on Hemis as he takes a slightly wider approach, looks for that undercut, and on Hemis as he hesitates on the apex. Tried to put the power down, and now actually you can see on the left-hand side who's that trying to bother him. Why, that's Heath Dalton trying to squeeze past Chris Etheridge, but I think the Hashtag best man might not let him have it his own way. Hanging out the left rear corner, now the left front side. That's how close we can get on BMWs. They're getting a more intricate look at the inside of Keith Dalton's car, but Dalton feels like he's got enough confidence to pile down the inside of the cops. A real shake and bake move, just like the decal on his right rear bumper. That is Etheridge down to 10th, Dalton up to 9th, so a better start for him. Move up another position. No, actually, that was, no, forgive me, that was actually Benji Douglas, not Keith Dalton. They're very similar looking red and white cars. It's Benji Douglas in the Sim 1 Motorsport machine, whilst Keith Dalton's back in 14th in the BASF tribute livery. Hustle going on here. This is now Williams versus Barker versus Griffiths. And Griffiths has got the run on Hemis. Might bump draft him down the back straight towards Stowe Corner. This would be a disadvantage to Barker, who's got no one as a drafting partner towards Stowe, but he has got cadence and momentum on the outside line. Is he going to capitulate? He's thinking about it, but he's got the grip, and just like a lap ago, it looks as though I think that it will be the place to gain for Barker. Yes, it will. Barker then in the Team Norfolk racing number 66 moves the orange and black BMW through. Now the top 3 have pulled away at the front of the field. The gap is between them around about 8/10 between those 3. So they left this trapping quartet over 4 place backwards, and now Will Chambers finds himself thoroughly in the mix with Isaac Doble in all grey on the right-hand side. The second of the Bromley Racing cars is in the mix. That's the slightly brighter yellow and purple Pete Smith. John Pettick is in there too. The ride on board Pete Smith, who has a grandstand view watching these 2 fight amongst each other. Doble has track position. Got the spot exiting the loop through Aintree. Now onto the B Wellington straight now for the second time, or third time rather. Looking out the back of Pete Smith's car. Now the front, staring at the rear bumper of Blackwell Chambers Clapham North liveried machine. And Blackwell Chambers thought about the inside line. Almost invited Pete Smith to go down the inside, tried to pick up a place. That forces Pete to just pop back into line for Luffield. And they make their way onto the right hand at Woodcote, and all the way onto Cops Corner once more. They come back towards Cops. Noble holding on to 4th now. Now, what can he do, if anything, to try and catch up to the cars in front? Because he might well have enough pace and momentum if he can lead these cars, bring them with him to start to chase up after the top 3, who the gap is still, again, in that phase of looking pretty close, but then stabilising as Davison finds his rhythm as they come onto the Wellington straight for the 3rd time. And the bigger circuit that it is, we're already heading towards half distance already, with 6.25 minutes on the clock gone so far, this 15-minute encounter. Now to Stowe Corner, as you watch the overhead view. They make their way towards Bayland Club once again for the 3rd time. And it's nice and neat and tidy. Just takes enough curb, doesn't touch the sausage curbs on the inside. So Dennison from Kendall for Merritt, then from Doble, Blackwell Chambers, Smith, and John Pethick, and then everyone else piling through from about 8th place backwards. There's a great group of cars scrapping through there. So now come on to part of another lap. This is now lap 4. Let's just look at things how they are and how that might affect things for race number 3, and if there's going to be any change at all to this. So Dennison has the fastest lap of the race at the moment, as Griffiths has a look up the inside for position on Benji Douglas and gets the move made. So that's him up into 12th position. As it stands now, it is now another 101 points that will be given to James Dennison at the end of race number 2 when it finished like this. This increases the lead out to 14 points out in front. Blackwell Chambers has a little sneaky look up the inside to make a move on Isaac Doble. It's got quite close, but just about has to hold on and just hang back. Couldn't quite make that move stick. as I mentioned, this is quite a prominent place and a popular place to make overtakes. If you can position your car in the right place at the right time, it does make it very difficult to try and find your way through, particularly as the circuit goes from being quite wide to quite narrow on corner exit if you go through Luffield. And on the run towards Woodcote, it widens out again before you tighten back up Copse. And Copse is still quite a fast corner. It was a bit of more of a break and stop a little bit at one point in the 80s and 90s, whereas slower. Whereas nowadays, they've opened it out a little more, so it is quite high speed, particularly in more high downforce faster machinery, like cars or top-level sports car prototypes. The Super 6 here, going after positions. This is on Hemmius, Etheridge, Barker, Ben Williams, Tom Griffiths, and Benji Douglas. This is over 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. So 8th to 14th positions here in this six-pack. Etheridge, who's been quite a past master once or twice in this evening's racing so far, trying to go down, diving down the outside for Blake, the 8th from Onhemius. Wants to stand his ground, but the more experienced Etheridge has got the inside line once again. It's a popular move to make if you can have enough confidence and belief in the car setup. You can pull it off on the outside line to take the outside run. You might be left out in the cold for the first part, but it gives you the right line that you need for the second part. That wasn't quite the right line for Tom Griffiths as he gets tagged by Benji Douglas. Hemmius almost lost it on the exit there of the first part of the club. That's now put him under threat from both Barker and from Ben Williams. So that's the last box on the top 10. Just up the road, Isaac Doble under attack from Blackwell Chambers. He has the look up the inside, looks to make the pass stick for third, blocks the avenue straight. Going to be very careful not to get to the back of him. Very close indeed, but it looks like Doble backed off on the exit, and now this gives Pete Smith the chance he needs to squeeze his way up the inside and now towards Brooklands for another time. They're going to be side by side for position. This is for 5th place. Doble will try and fight back, but Smith has got track position. Again, this puts him now on the outside for the next corner, which is a left-hander. A right-hander, forgive me. I should get my corners right. Then John Pethick trying to prise the door open, trying to capitalise. Smith has tried to make the move. Isaac Doble has stood his ground and said, I don't think so. And Pethick thinks, well, if you two are going to scrap, I might just see if I can box Pete Smith in, force him to make a mistake. And if you can pull off the pass, Isaac, it might mean good momentum for me as I head up towards against Beckett and Chapel. Doble is now retaining 5th place. It hasn't made the move. And he was incredibly close there, almost into the back of Doble as he headed towards Magnus and Beckett. So that's how hard that Pete's pushing. And whilst you watch this, in terms of the point situation, as it stands right now, with the fastest lap and the victory points going to Denison on 101, it would then put Denison on to 1,095 to 1,079 for Kendall. Now that's put in the scenario that Kendall actually wins the last race. It would put him on 1,180. And what would that mean in terms of other scores? The worst score of the season so far for Denison has been 90 points. So if we say he finishes in 88 points, which is 7th, it would still give Denison the title by 9 points. So really, this is pretty much a crucial race. This is the race that Kendall really had to try and do something to try and prevent anyone from putting the title out of reach, because even if he retires, he'll still get back a minimum of 90 points. The pit straight they come once again. This Super 6 has now become a 5-way dance between positions now, as Etheridge has escaped up the road. Now 2x2 almost between Hemmius and Barker, and then Williams and Douglas just behind, himself who's trying to fend off Griffiths. Almost touching wing mirrors between Barker and Williams. Griffiths tries to shoot the gap between Williams and Douglas, found his avenue closed, and again just taps the inside of Douglas, and I think Round has gone with Sim 1 Motorsport car because it hasn't appeared in shot. That little tap between the two cars seems to result in Douglas going around. There he is. There's the other red and white car going past him, so Douglas down to 15th as a result. We've got the replay here, so this is what happened from Douglas's perspective. Turns into the loop, makes his line. Not ideal. Oh, spins it, and that was very close to Mark Blunt almost spinning in sympathy. But he gets away double free. He's now even lost the place to Keith Dalton now. So another bit spot lost for Benji. He's down to 15th. Chambers is Now under threat again from Isaac Doble. It's going side by side into Magnussen Beckett. It's not an easy place to make a move. Been done. With that great dummy pass that Douglas pulled on Etheridge in the first race. Can't quite repeat that in race number 2. It's Tom Pethick. He's seeking racing in Mazdas, as we do Pete Smith. He's also teamed up in the past as well with a co-driver in Supersport Endurance in a Mazda MX-5 Mark 1. BMW certainly serving him quite well. Noble looking for the attack on the outside. He's got the momentum there. Remember, if he can put himself level and on the right line exiting Stowe, it will give him the right track position for the next corner, which is the left-hander at Vale. Gluttwell Chambers is wise to that. Ran him out of road just onto the curb on the exit. Keeps the position. So, on to the pit straight, what will be the start of the final lap. And provisionally, it seems, if things stay as they are, a potential champion-elect crowning moment for James Dennison, or series winner at least, on points. Still watch this race for third. It's not too much going on for the top 3, so we'll continue with this for fourth backwards. They will now almost caught in quite squeeze between Chambers and Smith. I think just watching here and just keeping his powder dry, waiting for one of these 3 to make a slip up. A free pass into the top 6. Now the quartet makes his way through. Further back, they're still also battling with this entertaining group of cars. Now, Douglas out of the equation, and Etheridge now up the road with one of him is trying to join him. It's now between Barker, Williams, and Griffiths for the last top 10 spot here. And of course, also remember, race number 3 is coming up shortly. It's the top 10 in this result reverse. So effectively, these 3 cars are all battling what will become pole position for race number 3. Barker currently has it. Williams and Griffiths set to miss out, but it only takes one mistake, one small slip. Harry Barker, one late braking move, one early or late turn in, one offline moment to put them into the mix. Of course, these guys will be battling also for track positions. The lower that you finish, the higher you'll start for race 3, and vice versa. Of course, if you win, you'll start all the way back in 10. Really, this is a jostling here for positions. Whilst that carries on, this man once again has proved relatively peerless in this third series of the BRSCC Clapham North Winter eSports Series. He makes his way towards Stowe, and fair credit to Matt Kendall, he has pushed as hard as possible. He'll probably push all the way to the end if he can, just to make it absolutely sure. That fight for fourth continues to run wild, heading towards Stowe Corner. As they come up towards Vale and Club for the final time, it will be another race victory for James Dennison. They come towards the Vale Corner. We could do with seeing James Dennison, I think, coming across the line in a second. As we watch the battle of 4th, 6th and 7th. Going to come through, they're still side by side. Looking pretty close. As they come up towards the checkered flag, it's going to be, looks like, Pete Smith and they're getting side by side, and Smith is into the barrier. Whilst that was happening, James Dennison does come across the line, takes the victory, and at least puts one hand effectively on the 2025 BRSCC Clapham North eSports Winter Series title. And essentially, he is pretty much champion, or series winner-elect, effectively. All he really needs to do is just keep himself out of trouble, and that's pretty much his efforts done for the season. I'm sure he'll try to enjoy himself from 10th on the grid. So, victory, and again the fastest lap go to James. And that in turn, as on our calculations, even if our calculation Matt was to win this upcoming third race with the fastest lap of the race, even if he was to finish outside of the top 6 and finish in 7th, with 88 points, it would still be a drop score that would come back his way. He would still be ahead by 9 points. So provisionally, we think it is enough that James Dennison has done enough, we think, provisionally, to wrap up eSports title. But of course, he would be advised to carry on, push as hard as he can in race number 3 to absolutely seal the deal. Now, as we get ready for race number 3, we'll notice there has been an obvious change in the surrounding areas, because what was a once sunny and bright Silverstone has now turned to wet, because for the final race, as we did at Donington Park, at the second event of the season, we are now going into the wet weather conditions. Not quite as wet as it was at Donington Park when it was proper monsoon conditions, but once again making full use of the iRacing Tempest weather system. and bringing in the wet weather once more. And you can see there, even that's JP Zenith, I think, going for a spin in the wet conditions. It's not easy, as you can tell. Not every driver out there is a Rainmeister. So as we continue to get ready for our final race of the series, a reminder that the BRSCC is beginning its 2025 season here on the Silverstone GP circuit next weekend. That will be live streamed as well on top of that too. So you can catch all the action live every single lap from start to finish. And if you quite enjoy sim racing action and not quite ready to put the simulator and pedals away yet, our friends at Driven Minds are putting on a race on this very circuit, on the Silverstone GP, the Willpower 6 Hour. So if you're a sim racing enthusiast, someone who knows someone that is and wants to give it a go, £20 entry, all that money to I assure you goes towards the support of Driven Minds, who is a fantastic motorsport mental health organisation that are partnered with the British Racing and Sports Car Club, and also to really help more with assisting with mental health services at motorsport circuits and events up and down the country and top that Driven Minds can be a part of and be a driver for the change and for investment in. So you get involved. There's 3 classes, all on fixed setups: the Radical SR8, the BMW M2 CS Racing, and Mark IV MX5 Global Cup car. And if you want to get yourself involved in that, you can head to the Driven Minds website and their social media pages for more information on how to enter. It should be a fantastic event and one that will certainly help raising well-needed support and funds for a very worthy cause indeed. Head to the Driven Minds website and search them up on social media for more information. And of course, if you want to find out more about anything that the BRSCC does from top to bottom, you can head to the website, brscc.co.uk. Great events coming up this year, including the return on this circuit once again in real life of the Silverstone 24 Hours, which is always a centrepiece usually of the BRSCC calendar, and indeed the car that you'll mainly find on that circuit, which is the Citroen C1. See, that race is back once again at its spiritual home, and if you are wanting to get involved in that, you can find out more details on how to by either speaking to the C1 Racing Club or to BRSCC on their respective websites and get in touch. So as you can see, drivers just tackling the weather conditions here. It's not quite as massive amounts of plumes of spray as it was at Donington Park. It doesn't look like it, in fact, but it is still quite wet out there. And this is where the 5-minute warm-up session is usually just there to kind of help transition the grid to reset, to reverse the top 10 from the result of race number 2. It does, in this particular scenario, give the drivers a few minutes to get themselves accustomed to the condition changes. It's a bit like in real life when you have an extra formation lap after the a different set of conditions in the previous session. Not quite benefiting the new champion-elect, though, because Dave Dennison going for a little rotation, exiting Aintree. And he's won 2 races so far tonight, both from pole. Trying to do it from 10th place, and it's this third race that tends to mix things up a little bit because those front runners have got to now try and pick their way through the traffic. It's not entirely easy to do so, particularly on either a wide or even a tight and twisty circuit like last time out at Cadwell. And we did see that where races where it's either a circumstance that's tricky, like racing in the wet, or on tight and twisty circuits, like, for example, Cadwell Park, and to a certain extent on some parts of the course on the Brands Hatch GP circuit. Really, those first couple of laps, you've got to make full use of them and make full use of the fact that you've got to try and pick your way through the pack when it's right in front of you. When it starts to spread out a little bit more, that's when you start to lose touch and lose time to do anything that you could crucially try and do. Here, as the drivers just come up to finish the end of their 5-minute warm-up session, again using this time to really get a feel for how these cars perform once again in the wet on this circuit in particular. A slightly different feeling to the more leaping whoops and dips and dives and undulations of Donington Park, where it was much different. This course circuit being much more flat, therefore it's much more, arguably, more forgiving and slightly easier to deal with. The Silverstone wing, a little bit wet, but it is certainly ready to go. And as we are prepared, after what's been very fun and very well supported third season for the BRSCC Clapham North into eSports series, this is how they'll line up for the very last race of the series. So Ari Barker's P10 in race 2 gives him pole position again for race number 3, as it has done previously. That's the front row start. They have Tom Juan Hemis alongside on the front row. Then Chris Etheridge, who got a podium in the race 3 at Brands Hatch, could do it again from the second row. Then John Pethick alongside him. Pete Smith and Isaac Doble from Will Blackwell Chambers and Thomas Merritt. But then Matt Kendall and the provisional new champion-elect, or at least has one hand on the trophy, James Dennison, will start back in 10th. Then Ben Williams and Tom Griffiths will be back on P or row 6. From Bart Blunt, Benji Douglas, then Keith Dalton, Nick Ramsey-Goff, James Roberts, Dan Gamble, Jamie Peters-Ennis, and Max Paula will be lining up on the grid ready to go. So 14 races, one more to finish things off in style. The last race of the series for the BRSCC Clapham North Winter Esports Series gets underway in the wet at Silverstone. Harry Barker with a nice, clean and tidy start. Everyone's got to be pretty much trouble-free, he says optimistically with his fingers crossed. Plenty of spray around as they come through Abbey, through Farm, up towards the village corner. One Hemius goes to the lead on the inside into the complex, and I spoke too soon because exiting stage right was Mark Blunt in car number 3. He spears off into the barriers. As wide goes Harry Barker, comes back into the path possibly of John Pethick. It's getting very busy at the loop. They'll get through. A little bit of a tiny hit check there from Smith, and he gets tapped by one of the Clapham North cars. Off the road goes the 17 of Pete Smith, and who was that? That was either Blackwell Chambers or Kendall, and it's Kendall in fact. So Kendall comes across back onto the road right the way down the order. You can't really see a thing as they pile down towards Brooklands for the first time. Spray everywhere as they turn in towards the left-hander. The onboard view here. So Barker ran wide, which has given one Hemius the lead. Can't quite see who we're looking at here. That's Griffiths, who's now lost out places now under pressure from Isaac Noble. Don't have the over. That was Ben Williams who we're looking at there. So Ben has moved up to 6th position. From on Hemius then leads them down towards Cops in the wet for the first time. Wipers ablaze as they turn towards the right-hander off the old National Pits, the Heritage Pits as it's called, now towards the sweeps of Magus, Peckett and Chapel. Now compared to the Craner curves, this is a bit more forgiving. It's flatter, a lot more runoff area, not all that prone to making a mistake. And I think I just saw James Dennison there, the original champion-elect, very twitchy on the approach to the S-bends. James, who was not moved from his P10 position, plenty of swapping, but hasn't really had much chance to really move up a place, although he has benefited making up one spot, and that's from Matt Kendall, who is down to last and 19th, 31 seconds off the leaders already. So they've got some work to do. What certainly counted one of his worst results if you can't pick yourself up way up the order. No safety cars or red flags in potentially. Well, there are safety cars in iRacing, but not in this series. Basically, whatever happens is whatever happens. That's Ben Williams who's lost it, and very nearly got collected by Benji Douglas. He was sideways as the camera panned around on the outside of the right-hander at Stowe. Two drivers in the process. Thankfully, to get through it pretty much unscathed. We're going to get a couple of replays of one or two things that happened on that opening lap as Tottenham on him is leads them through by a second from Etheridge. Now this is what happened on the opening lap here. That's Mark Blunt going off in the background and following Pete Smith. Now they came towards Luke. Barker then rejoins up and he goes off the road. A little bit of a tap inside of Pethick. Pethick taps into Blackwell Chambers. They go 3 wide as then Smith hit checks Pethick. Kendall goes down the inside and they looks like possibly Pethick was on the outside line. It looks like he maybe lost the back end trying to get the power down the way. And as a result, unintentionally got into the side of Kendall. This is looking back at Dennison. This is now back to real-time footage. Oh, and that is Pethick going off. Pethick has lost it, so he himself has fallen foul to the wet conditions at Silverstone. Plummets out of the top 10. It's back on the road in 15th. Behind Ben Williams, who had that spin Stowe in the replay. One more Pethick turns in. Simple last jumper was he pushed. He jumped. It all by himself. Lost the rear end. A little bit too much power. And the part of the circuit with just not enough grip. Round he goes. They're not quite sturdy cars in BMWs generally. Of course, they're also quite a little bit heavier than you find the car Mazda MX-5. So they do very bit of weight, but still a lot more power as well on top of that, which means you've really got to be careful how much you use it, otherwise it can be easily spun around like a top, particularly being rear-wheel drive, so that's really bear in mind. James Dennison, apart from brake lights, literally cannot see a thing in towards Magus, Beckis and Chapel, to quote the immortal John Cleland. Quoting him, saying, where the hell's the track? Well, there it is, right in front from here. This is the driver eye view you can see here. To try and make this move he can. He's going to try and chase after up to 8th now, past Doble, because of course Pethick dropped back after his mistake. There's Doble in front. He's trying to keep close, but also keep almost off the racing line and try and close in whilst not being blinded by the spray being kicked up by Doble's 7th place car in front of him. His way through Stowe, you can see the rain falling on the windscreen. Instantly braking, flicking down to 3rd, keeping it in a slightly higher gear to maintain traction. Might just short shift to 4th here in a minute. Yeah, there you go. Just very carefully, just very gingerly putting the throttle on bit by bit, steadily trying to increase the speed. And Dennis not making the progress he would hope. Meanwhile, further back, someone who's definitely not making any progress, sadly, is Matt Kendall. He's still back in 18th and trying to chase after Pete Smith, but he's still 14 seconds back. There he is. He's only just coming onto the hangar straight, so it really has been a final race to forget for poor Matt Kendall. And it all came undone, exiting the loop onto the Wellington Straight at the end of lap number 1. And there's the car he's trying to chase, which is Pete Smith. But this is relative gaps, in fact. So in fact, he's actually... no, he's 30 seconds back. So yes, that is right. He's 30 seconds back. Got confused by one car or the other. Then Williams is still in 14th place. 3 cars in front. On their lines, little twitches there from both Dalton and also James Roberts, who's been having one of his best races of the season so far. Yeah, he's up into 11th, nearly 10th position. Whoops! And that's... Oh, I spoke too soon. Commentator's curse, because under brakes, it was Reggie Douglas loose in the back end, and unfortunately James Roberts was just a passenger after that. And even though that was definitely not intentional at all, you didn't deserve that, because Roberts was having such a good run. And that is pure the commentator's curse. And that was quite plain and simply Douglas losing back end under braking, and there was nothing Roberts could do there. He was very much the innocent party, but again, nothing malicious in that. It was simply just the conditions catching Douglas out as a result. Douglas continues on in back down to Douglas continues in 11th place. Now Roberts down to 14th after his spin. Ross Merritt is in 4th place. The top 3 really broken away. Keep focusing on Tom, but Tom is back in 4th place. He's 6.3 seconds off the lead. He's about another, that's 5.5 seconds from the cars in front, who are battling here for 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Monhemius leads, and Will Blackwell Chambers, who is quite handy in the wet, he's now trying to power his way down the outside on the better racing line in the wet, and makes the move stick on Chris Etheridge, a neatly performed move, pick up 2nd place in these trickier conditions. Now then, we had this before where Will Blackwell Chambers denied a first victory last time out, and I think it was for Tom Monhemius, if I remember correctly. It's Tom, I think finished 2nd, did he? Did. This is Cowboy Park set 2 between Monhemius and Blackwell Chambers. The only difference is Monhemius has got half the race to defend from Blackwell Chambers, and I think given the pace he's setting, might not be possible, but let's not doubt Tom too much. He's a young racer and might well be able to surprise us here and beat Blackwell Chambers. Will, of course, knows these cars, he knows iRacing, he knows these conditions, given the fact he's raced in the UK quite a lot. If I remember correctly, he won the MX5 Super Cup Pro Class title in conditions not too dissimilar to this, if not slightly lighter, damp conditions. He knows how to handle it here. He's twitching his way through entry, and now he's trying to set himself up for a move here. Now, the conditions suggest he should go diving down the outside. If he goes to the inside, he's a brave man to do it off essentially the racing line. And Hemis goes defensive. If he can just hold Blackwell Chambers up and show him the edge of the road, it will work, and it's just about pulled off. And Hemis again, only holding the racing line and just checking Blackwell Chambers back into Etheridge here. Slight frustration, but Blackwell Chambers just needs that one bingo run off the corner to put himself alongside. He just needs one small mistake, one twitch, one move offline, one little flex of the brake pedal or the accelerator just too late or too soon, and it can work. And he's all over the back of Monhemis as they come out of tops. Wipers ablaze. Now it gets a face full of spray from Monhemis' green and white BMW under brakes. 3 maggots, 3 Beckett's. It's not as smooth and quick as it was before on the dry. Constantly working the wheel. Here's the driver's eye. Again, count the number of times he steers it left as he's going through a right-hander. That's the switch he needed. Monhemis made the mistake. He's not got the momentum on the back straight towards Stowe corner. Now, Monhemis might try and defend if he can get himself in front or try and go down the outside. But initially, there's nothing he can do. And Blackwell Chambers, who's been chasing for a lap and a bit, goes through, but he twitches his way towards Stowe. Just about gets it stopped. He just gets a little flick of oversteer. Thank you very much, Tom. And it might well be good night, Irene, I'm gone. And what's now going to possibly add to Monhemis' troubles, as we see Mark Blunt just in the front of the shot, spinning in front of the leaders as they come to lap him, so he's getting quite troubled in the conditions. But Chris Etheridge is putting the pressure on Monhemis there. Shout out to Mark Blunt, actually. Good sensible driving to keep out of the way of leaders. He might have been a spin, but he's not put himself in anyone's way, so good effort from Mark. He's used to front-wheel drive Fiestas, and Etheridge is more used to front-wheel drive C1s, but he's making the most of the rear-wheel drive BMW through Abbey Corner. And Monhemis is fighting back. He's got the inside. Usually the conventional racing line in the wet is not the one you want, because it means that your weather usually is rubber. It gets wet, it does get much more less grip, and Etheridge might have the chance here that he needs. Steps inside into the loop, tries to get the power on the inside of the circuit, and Monhemis, as much as he's trying his best to retaliate, he's going for it, but he needs to look on Etheridge making a mistake. Down the back straight, Etheridge is up into second place. But all that battling has allowed Blackwell Chambers to pull a 2-second gap out in front. Monhemis looks to try and attack again in towards Brooklands. Almost finds the right front of his car, more acquainted with the left rear of Monhemis is. He looks up the inside and they make contact. That was Monhemis looking for the switchback, and unfortunately Etheridge has been dumped out of second place. Again, Monhemis trying to look for a gap that might not have been there in the end. And Etheridge to rejoin. Might feel a bit aggrieved with that one, but we get a replay and see if we can get another angle on it. This is Etheridge then, so he can't see where Monhemis' actually is. It's another separate angle up the inside. It's a slightly tough one to call. I mean, it's not my job to call it being a commentator, but I think Monhemis made a legitimate attempt, because there's no doubt about that, trying to get past Etheridge. It looked like he may have just understeered a tiny bit into Etheridge thanks to the wet conditions. We should have to consider net code in there as well, potentially too. But again, that's one for the stewards to work out post-race. And Will Blackwell Chambers, meanwhile, pretty much trouble-free. Splashes his way down the Hanger Straight for what I think will be the second to last time. As for the cars behind, you'll see there's one all the times here in green, so they're getting quicker and quicker as they go through. One glaring obvious time that's in purple, Matt Kendall, Will's teammate, back in 17th, 2 minutes 30.077. That's probably what you get when you're running basically out of the pack and not got any cars around you. He's at least 2 seconds quicker than the cars in front of him immediately. And look at Tom Monhemis here, who off camera has not just lost the lead initially, but he's also now lost second place again, because he's now been passed by Thomas Merritt. Thomas, who is lapping, his last lap was a 2:30. His best lap was a 2:30.546. That's better than Monhemis by about 1.4 seconds. So Merritt will get through. We're going to get the replay here as to what happened. This is the on-board from Monhemis, so you get the spot from Merritt looking at Monhemis. So in towards Stowe, and Monhemis just goes off the road. He just tries to brake, but has no grip. Merritt easily slides his way through and up into an easy second place. Monhemis, I'm sure, will try and get him back momentarily if he can. Further back, as we go into the last moments of the series, they're still battling for position no matter where you are. This is for the last top 10 spot. This is between Douglas, Pethick and Dalton. So Douglas has it. Pethick and Dalton would quite like to pinch it if they can. And Dalton give him a slight helping hand through the loop. Through Village into the loop. Benji Douglas. It's been quite impressive at times. One or two good moments, one or two flashes of brilliance. But finds himself now back in 9th place with Pethick and Dalton for company. As his way up towards Brooklands, well, out of that complex come Griffiths, Barker and James Dennison. Dennison looks as though he's on course. He will firmly outscore Matt Kendall, because this will be one of Matt's worst results of the season. So he'll get some points back anyway. But there is effectively 90 points on the way to James Dennison if he stays where he is. He might be 92 if he can try and find his way past Harry Barker. He can go to 94 if he gets himself up into 4th place past Griffiths. Watching as his way left and right. House of Maggots through Beckett's and now to the left-hand kink of Chapel. And he's thinking about it. He's got a good run here potentially on Harry Barker to make the way onto the Hanger Straight. It might well be the last time because look at the timer. There's about 10 seconds to go and Blackwell Chambers is only about 10 or 15 seconds up the road. And he's only getting himself down towards Vale and Club in a moment's time. So we'll keep an eye on that. Edison, meanwhile, is going to take you all the way to the line. He can snatch the top 5. He'll go for it. But it will be checkered flag this time for the final time in the series. And will Blackwell Chambers, one of the key components of this series going through, I guess quite fittingly in a way, will finish with a flourish and a sideways move across the line and will take his, I think, 4th victory of the series season. A fine way to finish off his campaign. 2nd goes to Thomas Merritt. 3rd goes to Tom Wanhemius. So another strong podium for Tom in the end. Tom Griffiths takes 4th from Harry Barker in 5th. And James Dennison with the 6th place. That effectively provisionally confirms it. More than enough points that he needed to end up as the 2025 BRSCC Clapham North Winter eSports Series winner. Provisionally, of course, once we've figured out all the post-race investigations and results and calculated everything up neatly. He's celebrating as if he's effectively got it wrapped up. And pretty much our maths suggest, given that he finished in 6th place, will give him 90 points. Or to work out at the moment very quickly, Matt Kendall, who finished in 15th by the looks of it, that will give him 72 points. That will give him points back, being one of his worst results of the season, because his worst results up to that point were a couple of different ones, I think. Yes, that gives him some points back. So by our calculations, it is Dennison who takes the victory in the series by 14 points in the end, because of the points gained back from Kendall on his drop score. He was all the way back down in the mid-teens. And as you would expect, the end of season last race results are all being celebrated with some donuts at the end. Matt Kendall, a very commendable effort. He has to come up with the 2nd best in the series, but did take a couple of the victories and was a very, very worthy opponent and battle it all the way to the end. So a great effort from him. He will come through. He came through in 14th place actually. That gives him 74 points. That result, and it doesn't change his drop score total anyway, so he stays on 14 points behind. WP Dennis with the last car go across the line and finish in this race. We lost Bolton, Mott Blunt did finish. We lost Matt Haller, Chris Etheridge, and Dan Gamble in the end. And that, in terms of track action, concludes what's been, I think it's safe to say, a very successful 2025 BRSCC Winter eSports Series. Not done totally just yet, because we've got 1 or 2 post-race, I guess, almost kind of end-of-season interviews to conduct very shortly. But we'll give you the results in a moment as we look at some of the replay here at the beginning of race number 3, as we wait for some of our drivers to bring themselves into the booth shortly. We'll have a chat with them to see how they felt about tonight, and also the series itself as a whole. We've got a couple already in the booth, and whilst we are waiting, again, whilst we take this opportunity, what we might do in a minute, in a second too. So thanks to everyone that's been involved. Before we do that and let them gather up in the interview booth, it is victory in the final race of the series for Will Blackwell Chambers by nearly 4 seconds in the wet, from Tom Merritt in 2nd place. 3rd goes to Tom Wanhemius, another strong podium for him, from Tom Griffiths and Harry Barker in the top 5. James Dennison, P6 is more than enough to pretty much put one hand provisionally on the Winter eSports Series title. 7th place goes to Isaac Noble, 8th to Ben Williams, 9th to Benji Douglas, 10th to John Pettick, who runs the top 10, 11th to Pete Smith, 12th to Nick Ramsey Golf. It's one of his stronger results of the season to round off what's been an up and down season for him in the Driven Minds racing machine. Then it's James Roberts 13th, Matt Kendall 14th, James and Peter Dennis in 15th place, Chris Etheridge 16th from East Dalton and Mark Blunt. And the last 2 cars we had there that pulled out towards the end in the beginning of the stage, I think was scroll down to 19th and 20th. There we go. Here's Max Haller and Dan Gamble. Let's bring in, first of all, for interviews, let's bring in the man who came runner-up. We'll save the champion-elect, shall we say, or the series winner-elect, one of our later interviews. Let's bring in Matt Kendall, who tried his hardest tonight and has done so all series, but on a really couple of great strong performances that had to come out 2nd best in the end, but still all the way to the last race. It's just that unfortunate incident on the opening lap of race number 3 that kind of paid to his any proper chance of trying to at least take some points out if he could of stay as close as he could to James Denison in the end on points. Let's just try and bring Matt if we can to have a chat with him. What was another entertaining and half fortnight, but at the end of it all, Matt, Wiz Race are losing out on the series victory, but even so, three very eagerly contested races. I guess we'll start with race 3, I suppose. It wasn't quite the way you wanted the last race of the series to play out when you got to the loop.
No, I mean, basically I had two choices at that point. It was either follow that massive cluster of everyone having issues staying out of each other's doors, or go for the 3 wide, and it was working pretty well until limitations of sim racing visibility happened. It was a risk, but it didn't pay off this time. Maybe it would have done at some other point, but even then the championship was decided long before then anyway. So, yeah.
It may well have been, but even so, you were very hard fighter all the way to the end on that side of things, and you did push James all the way in those first couple of races to really take it down to as late as possible for him to pretty much put one hand on the series title. When you look back at the series as a whole, in terms of your performance and how you've gone, obviously anyone can say they've had ups and downs, and I didn't realise you had another incident there with the number 7 car as well, so you had more walls on the first lap with looking at the replay. But when you look at the series as a whole, obviously second place is a fantastic result. Any driver wants to win it, but what do you take away from this series, and how pleased are you with the results that you've achieved and what you've managed to get in the end?
I'm pretty proud of it in general. James is a very good driver, and on paper he's sort of 300 or 400 I rating in front, and he's done a lot. So I would to be with him is good, and just keep him plugging away. And even when things didn't go my way, I was happy with the way I just kept racing. It's the way you win championships. It didn't work this time, but it does as many times as it doesn't. So yeah, but it was great racing. I mean, I had a great race with Tom Merritt tonight in race 1 and race 2. Very nice, and that's been the theme really. Just lots of pretty fun racing, and just enjoyable experience.
As I say, to round things off on this one, obviously you've been one of the key people in terms of adminning the series along with Will, and you've obviously been teammates and putting some great performances also. I think from a personal, also from a BRSCC standpoint, this has been the most successful out of the 3 series that we've done on a number of different fronts. So how do you look at the success and how the series has been from start to finish? And are you being involved in it? Are you happy with how it's gone from your point of view and think it's been a success?
I think it's been a success. I think a lot of people have had a lot of fun. The car has been very good sometimes, not so good other times. It was bound to be that way. Every new iRacing car is to an extent, but it's produced some really exciting racing. The admin's been extremely smooth. Everyone, for the most part, as much as possible, has been very well behaved, and the standards have been generally pretty high. So yeah, I'd call it a success.
Great stuff. Well, you've been a part of that key, not just racing, but also helping Will in the background with things too. So from a personal, from BRSCC perspective, thank you to you for your involvement in it. And again, fantastic effort to get second place. And I guess it's a dangerous question to finish off, but do you feel suitably prepared now for what may come your way in 2025 on track?
Probably. Maybe some... I mean, if your engines blow up, that would be a good start. So I'm prepared for it. You know, I've had no engines blow up in sim, so if that's an omen, then I'll take that.
Let's take it as a positive. And Matt, again, thanks not just for your efforts off track as well, but for all the efforts you've done on track to get second place. Still a great result, and you should be proud of it. And so again, thanks for your participation, thanks for the support on it. And yeah, fingers crossed that whatever you happen to do in 2025, it is prosperous and successful. But thank you very much once again, Matt, and all the best for it.
Cheers, thanks.
Great stuff. Let's now move on to driver I don't think we've spoken to all season, but we'll at least have a chat with him, who had some great racing and good, strong performances towards the end of the series. Let's bring in Thomas Merritt, who is one of our Fiesta Junior drivers, and he's embarking his second season of the championship this year. And it's good to have him in the mix as well. Thomas, great to talk to you, I think, for the first time this series as well. So we'll talk about this weekend, also this series as a whole. Really strong performances tonight, getting a couple of podiums and being up there towards in the mix. In terms of tonight, both wet and dry, how do you rate how tonight has gone to finish off the series?
Yeah, I think it's a really positive end to the season. I've loved every moment of it. I think we had a tricky start to the season, just struggling to get to grips with the BMW. But we still got a few podiums. And yeah, coming to the end of the season now, brands, we got 2 seconds, and then here we've had a triple podium finish, which is, really, really positive. And I think it's going to be really positive for my real life racing as well. The racecraft that I've learned in this series can be transferred to the Fiesta Juniors, which I'm racing in this season.
Yep, can't disagree with that. And I think you've been one of the most improved drivers from start to finish all the way through. In terms of, obviously, this BMW is obviously a different beast to the Fiesta Junior car that you're going to run and have run since last year. He's talked about the racecraft, but I mean, even though they're different drivetrains, I mean, how much do you think you've learned from this series running on the tracks that you've done, the work you've done in setups, the fact you're part of the T12 eSports team? How much of all of that has helped you to feel hopefully as prepared as possible going into the opening rounds in a few weeks in Fiesta Juniors?
Well, I think one, obviously, we're running on the circuits that I'll be running on, except Cadwell and Navarra, which obviously is really, really helpful for me to get an understanding of the lines. And even though they're different driving styles, you can still find turning in points and braking points, etc. It's all relatable. And I think even though, like you say, they are different driving styles from rear-wheel drive to front-wheel drive, the racing that you can get, like car placement and racecraft, etc., is really, really good to learn in this series, because obviously everyone's so tightly packed. If you get bigger grids and more competitive racing now, then when you get to Fiesta Juniors, when it's going to be a little less intense, you'll be on the upper end of it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And Fiesta Juniors is never not intense. I think you can well support it, well prepared for that in that sense. Of course, now going into the new season as well, I mean, we've asked Matt this question as well, but how prepared do you feel now? How much do you feel this series has helped you prepare and feel ready for when you hit the track in a few weeks' time at Silverstone?
Well, I think it's really helped me overall. Obviously, like I said before, like I mentioned, racecraft. There's a few Fiesta Junior drivers that was competing in this series, so I can get an understanding of what they're going to be like to compete as together as well. But I think ultimately we're in a really good spot for the beginning of the season. We've had a few real life tests, and I've been using the sim so much over the winter, testing front-wheel drive cars and competing in championships such as this. And I think we're in a much better place than last year, and looking strong for the season.
Good stuff. That sounds all positive, and I can't wait to see it. Well, Thomas, again, thanks for taking part and being one of the most improved drivers and one of the distant front-running drivers in the series. All I can say is thanks for the participation, thanks for supporting it, and no doubt, of course, the very best of luck for what hopefully is a successful and prosperous Fiesta Junior season in 2025. But for now, thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you. See you soon.
Great stuff from Thomas Merritt, and you'll be seeing him on a track in Fiesta Juniors very near soon in the next few weeks. Let's bring in the man who essentially is champion-elect. We'll say well until the last one. He's one of the main driving force alongside Matt, and also input for myself to get involved. Let's bring him in then. So we'll start off by saying then, provisionally, we have to say, because we've got some, I'm sure, any protests and stuff at the end to confirm results, but at least provisionally, 2025 BRSCC Clapham North Winter eSports Series winner, James Tennyson. Doesn't sound too bad, does it?
Yeah, no, it sounds really good. Yeah, really pleased. It's been a really good series to take part in over the last few weeks. Yeah, really nice way to spend a Thursday evening. So yeah, I got to say thanks to Matt and Jack and Will and the BRSCC and yourself for your excellent commentary, and obviously the sponsors on my car, the studios, Scale Experts, Bromley Motorsport as well, who have all helped me go out there and have fun on my Thursday evening. So yeah, been really good.
I can tell there's a smile when you're talking there. I can also tell that you're smiling because the fact you've got it wrapped up. The first 2 races were pretty much, I guess, a status quo for you from pole position. You had the early challenge in race number 2 from Matt as well. But I think once you had a gap, you'd seem pretty comfortable in race number 2. When it came to race number 3 in the wet, when you're picking your way through, that's when you had a little bit more of a challenge. But 6th was more line up, and Matt got caught up in that first lap scuffle. In terms of looking at the season as a whole, including Silverstone, are you totally happy with how you've driven? Do you think there's still things that you could have done better to improve, or are you just simply satisfied with the fact you've scored a bunch of wins and come away with a very well-earned series victory?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm definitely happy. I think it took me a while to properly figure out how to drive the car, as it did with a lot of people. I still don't think I fully got it until Cadwell. And after that, yeah, just putting it into practice. But yeah, Brands Hatch probably made a couple of mistakes there, as you saw on the stream. So yeah, apologies to those drivers that I did actually biff off. But other than that, yeah, pretty happy. I think at Donington there was a cut track as well, which ended up costing me 4 places. But yeah, overall across the season, I didn't end up facing the wrong way once, I don't think, which is pretty good, especially in sim racing as well. That's quite unusual.
Always quite helps to keep going in the right direction, particularly in sim racing. So I guess now, as I've asked other people, now that the eSports series is done, now looking ahead to the real racing season, how much more prepared, if at all, do you now feel that you're ready to take on whatever your adventures might be in 2025 on track in the real world? Do you think that this series has helped you at least take off some of the winter race rust and got you ready to go again?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to recover first. I'm knackered after this, so it feels like I've done a full season already. But no, once I've moved on and stopped celebrating, then yeah, I think it's a really good preparation for the season, because even if the car isn't the same as the car that you'll be driving, and I don't think anyone's racing an M2 this year in this series, but the racecraft and the lines, everything like that, even the wet weather driving, which is new for iRacing in this BRSCC series, yeah, it all is fantastic practice. So it's well worth it. If anyone's thinking of getting a sim and joining in, then I'd thoroughly encourage it, because it definitely does help with real world driving. It's come on so far in the last few years.
Ultimate application from the champion-elect. Well, James, for all your efforts, you've been a brilliant driver from start to finish. I think it is a well-earned series victory. And we'll reiterate again, provisionally, of course, all the post-race any kind of protests and at the race before we get the official results later on. But for the record, at least provisionally, with hands on the trophy, 2025 BRSCC Clapham North Winter Esports Series winner, James Dennison, congratulations. A brilliant effort from start to finish, and hopefully this sets you up for a prosperous and successful season in the real world on track in 2025. So thank you for the support of the series. Thanks for taking part. And once again, a very big congratulations for your provisional title all round on that side. Well done.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Scott.
Great stuff. Well done from our champion-elect James Dennis. He can now go into his new season full of confidence now that he has prepped himself in the BMW. Now time to get the last word, I think, from one of the main, if not the main driving man alongside BRSCC and myself and everyone else that have been involved in this side, but has played his key role in being the admin of the series and also rounded it off, I think, quite fittingly with a race win. So we'll get him to give the last word on that. Will Blackwell Chambers. Well, you had to sign off with a victory to the round of what's been a successful season, didn't you? You did it at Cabell Park. You did it again here at Silverstone. There just had to be something to give you a victory, to let you have the last laugh in the last race, I suppose.
Yeah, as you can see, I haven't quite got the outright pace, but I can still drive, apparently, when it comes to the racecraft side of things. So, yeah, nice to get the Clapham North car on the front of the Clapham North BRSCC Clapham North eSports Series. And yeah, really nice way to sign off, I think, probably our best and biggest season. All the drivers really positive, really liked it, and yeah, it's been really, really great to sort of see people make sort of new friends, do stuff in the off season, and yeah, it's been big success, I think.
Yeah, I think I echo with that. That's something which I think I echoed before we had the interviews here, is that it has genuinely been the most successful series that we've run so far. We've run 3, but this has unquestionably been the best. We've had 41 registered drivers in the end, 41, 42. For the most part in the season, we had 3 events that we had 30 plus cars on the grid, great mix of drivers in there too, and some great dedicated drivers that raced all the way to the end. The switch from the Mazda to the BMW, I think, is great input and great feedback from a lot of drivers, including those here in the series. So obviously there are all things you can tweak and improve, but as a whole, I think we can classify this as being the most successful series yet. And as you say, I think it hopefully has made some friends of people in the paddock, which is what it ultimately tries to do. And hopefully yourself and others now are suitably warmed up now ahead of what is going to be an interesting season ahead in 2025, which starts at Silverstone next weekend.
Yeah, hopefully not next. Yeah, no, it is next weekend. Oh my word! Yes, I will be there next weekend. I'm getting my weekends mixed up. Yeah, can't wait for it. Basically, let's call this practice. I mean, I wish my Mazda was as fast as this thing, but let's be honest, it's not. But yeah, been really successful. I think we were going to poll the drivers and sort of see what we think. I think there's a slight rumbling that Formula Fords might be on the card for next season, but let's see what happens.
Interesting stuff going from BMWs to single seaters. That could be a whole different kettle of fish, to use that term. Nonetheless, it's been good also to see. One thing's also been good to see, we can talk about as well very briefly, is the fact that we've had the chance, as we had tonight and at Donington, to implement the Tempest weather system and get some wet weather for the first time as well. Some drivers have liked it, others have found it difficult, shall we say at least. But even so, it's been quite interesting to see how drivers have picked up with the wet weather conditions. And it's been quite an interesting dynamic watching how drivers who do well in the wet have also done in the dry and vice versa. So how do you think these first kind of experimental dips into the world of wet weather in iRacing have gone with these two cars, particularly Donington and here at Silverstone?
Well, I love it because I do quite well in the wet. But yeah, obviously the drivers' feedback's been positive. It's recognised we're in the UK. It rains a lot. I think we're all aware of that. It certainly brings its challenges, and it's clear that some drivers have maybe done more practice than others when it comes to the wet weather conditions. No one really complains about it, but it certainly adds a new challenge. To be honest, it's quite funny we're all in the Discord generally chatting away during the races, but when the wet race comes in, it goes surprisingly quiet as everyone is desperately just trying to hang on to the car. So yeah, I think really positive introduction. I'll admit it's not realistic in the slightest. I drove dry lines for the whole of that race, having tested at Silverstone 2 weeks ago in the wet. You don't drive dry lines around this circuit. So iRacing, it's amazing they put it in. Doesn't replicate real life particularly well, but it doesn't mean it's not fun. And that's, at the end of the day, this is a game, simulator game. I know people hate calling it a game, but it's a game at the end of the day. They've done a great job of making it fun. The spray's fantastic. The visibility's limited. It makes you try so hard. Does it matter that the lines are totally incorrect? Not really. It still shakes the racing up. So I think they've done a great job with it, and it achieves what it needs to.
There's still room for improvement. I'm sure that iRacing will build on that going forwards in the weeks and months as we go on. I guess the final thing to say on this side of things is not only congratulations for the efforts you put in. I think that your efforts have put you third in the standings as well, so that's a good effort to get.
It has. That's a nice surprise.
It is. So that's good stuff on that one because you think you finished ahead of your main rival for that in all 3 races. I guess the final thing really to say is a genuinely massive thank you to you and also to Matt and to everyone that's been part of this series to make it the success that it has. You know, I do my little bit of commentating and doing what I can to promote it on the side of the BRSCC things, but ultimately it's yourself and it's Matt and it's all those behind the scenes that have made it work and made it happen. Also have to say thanks to James Fremont, who's been doing the cinematography for us. Brilliant effort he's done all season as well. I'm definitely see we're going to have him back for the next season, whenever that might be. And just for Apex Racing TV, for iRacing, for the platform, for all the producers and stuff, for Lee and for everyone at Apex for having us once again. I think we can agree this is, as we said, the best season to date, and it's just thanks to everyone's efforts, and particularly yours and Matt's, that made it happen. So a genuine on-broadcast there, thank you to your efforts and everyone for making it such a brilliant series to round things off from the off-season and get things ready for when we get things underway properly for real next weekend.
Yeah, I said everyone's done an amazing effort, and of course, massive thank you to Clapham North for coming on board as the title sponsor this year. Allowed us to get trophies and get stuff out to the drivers, and it's been really good to have them on board. So yeah, again, a massive thanks for that, and hopefully that sponsorship will continue into future seasons.
Fingers crossed. Well, again, Will, massive thank you to you and to Matt and everyone to get involved. Congrats on signing off, I guess in some case, fittingly, a victory before we go racing for real. And yeah, hopefully you're now suitably prepared to translate that success when you get behind the wheel of the MX5 Super Cup car next weekend.
That would be the dream.
Whether you get similar conditions or not, we'll have to wait and see. But again, Will, massive thank you for everything on this season. And fingers crossed for season 4, whatever that is. And all the best for this season. Fingers crossed you have as much success in the real world as you do in the sim. But for now, again, just brilliant stuff. And all the best for 2025.
Perfect. Cheers, Scott, and thanks for all the commentary this season. Been fantastic. Cheers.
You're welcome. Thank you. So that's it. That is a line drawn under the 2025 Clapham North BRSCC Winter Esports Series once again. And that is the series done. As you mentioned just there, it's a chance for us to say thank you to everyone that's been involved. So again, I'll reel off some thank yous very quickly. Again, a thank you to those who've been admin in the background, but Will Blackwood Chambers and Matt Kendall, Herculean effort. They've been a real driving force with been making sure the cogs of this series have turned as much as possible, setting up the sessions and briefing the drivers and helping them with livery and tech questions. Fantastic stuff they've done in the Discord server. So brilliant thank you to them for their efforts. Couldn't have really done it without them. It's been amazing. Thank you to Clapham North, George Grant, for their support for the series as well. On top of that, too, for being a very loyal partner of BRSCC. They renewed their partnership with BRSCC this year and sponsorship of the MX5 Super Cup and the MX5 Club and Cup Championship for this year, too. So well done to them. Massive thank you to Apex Racing, of course, for taking us on board again as our broadcast partner. Thanks to Josh, who's been in the production booth for most of the races we've had doing some great camera work. Great thank you to him and to Lee and to everyone at Apex for again having us as part of their broadcast calendar. Great to have on that side. A massive thank you to iRacing for providing the platform, for having the BMW, for all the circuits involved, and the Tempest weather system, and everything else involved on top of that. It continues to keep the sim one of the best out there in sim racing and in gaming in general. And a thank you to all of you, not just those who've watched, but also to every single driver that signed up and raced in the series at some point throughout 2025, and visiting some fine circuits, put on some great racing and some great memories, and hopefully new friendships forged, maybe new rivalries forged going into the new real world season. Thanks to all of you that are either supporting the club by watching the stream or being a club member or competing or anything else that might be in the mix. You've all done an amazing job, and the club thanks all the support that they get from everyone involved in this. As you mentioned, that is the esports side of things done, but the real world racing gets back underway next weekend on this very circuit. Silverstone GP will kick off the 2025 BRSCC club racing season. Some great championships involved, including Mazda MX-5, Super Sport Endurance Cup, C1 Endurance race in there too as well, and also the debut of the brand new Pro Sport Sprint Series. Some very tasty machinery set to line up for that next weekend. On top of that, 2 Audi TTs will be there as well, and others in there as well. So for the final time from the Winter Esports Series, supported by Clapham North, from myself, Scott Woodward, from Josh Wilkie, who's in the production booth, from everyone at Apex TV, iRacing, and all of us at BRSCC, thank you for watching and for the support. It's been another memorable season, and it comes away provisionally with James Dennison as Season 3 victor of the Clapham North BRSCC Winter Esports Series. Take care, enjoy the race, and join us live next weekend for all the action and throughout the series. And until next time on the esports scene, thanks for watching. We'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.